Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Trump spoke to the people. Democrats never once mentioned Arnold Palmer's never once.
When Jon Stewart turns on the Democrats, you know something's broken. For years, Stewart was the unofficial voice of the American left, sharp, satirical, and fiercely loyal to progressive causes. But now, he's holding nothing back. What unfolded wasn't just another monologue. It was a political intervention, a no-holds-barred roast that tore into the very party he once defended with surgical precision.
Social justice issues take a back seat when your son is in the basement vaping and playing video games and can't find a job.
I feel like that last guy was really venting more about his son.
From clueless messaging and broken promises to the cultural movements dividing voters, Stewart didn't flinch. He called it all out on national television. And for once, the left didn't know how to clap back. But the most surprising part? He might have been right. This wasn't just a comedy bit with punchlines and satire. This was Stewart ripping the bandage off a wound his party refuses to treat. He opened with a scathing critique of Democratic strategy, or more accurately, the lack of one. The party, he said, has become addicted to aesthetics. Think perfect photo ops, well-lit speeches, buzzwords printed on signs, but no substance behind the slogans. They've mastered the performance, but they've forgotten the people.
It turns out the election was stolen by more people voting for Donald Trump. It's quite a caper. Ocean's 74 million.
While communities struggle with inflation, crime, job insecurity, and crumbling trust in institutions, the DNC has been busy checking identity boxes and crafting the perfect image. Stewart wasn't mocking the values. He was calling out the hollow way they're used. He wasn't cracking jokes. He was holding up a mirror. Stewart took it a step further, pointing to the exact reason the Democrats keep losing elections.
So now, as many on the left fear the future, as they should, many others rue the past.
Joe Biden should have dropped out earlier.
There should have been an open primary.
And it's not just bad luck. According to him, the left has become so focused on not offending anyone, they've forgotten how to inspire anyone. Campaigns are built like press releases, sanitized, vague, and often disconnected from reality. While the GOP hammers home visceral messages that speak to people's frustrations, however polarizing, the left is stuck in a cycle of vague promises and defensive posture. Republicans, for all their faults, know how to speak directly to the gut. They don't just campaign, they connect. They tell voters, we hear you, we get it, here's what we'll do. And whether you agree or not, that message lands. Democrats, by contrast, sound like they're still workshopping their lines backstage. Stewart didn't just observe this, he diagnosed it. But the next part? That's when the gloves came off.
Trump spoke to the people. Democrats never once mentioned Arnold Palmer's never once.
Then came the moment that's had even his supporters squirming. Stewart said what many in the party won't. Joe Biden should have stepped aside. Not out of disrespect, not out of malice, but out of realism. The presidency isn't just a policy job. It's an endurance test, a symbolic role, and an emotional one. And according to Stewart, Biden's age and demeanor aren't helping the case for leadership. For years, critics, often dismissed as conspiracists or cynics, voiced concerns about Biden's visible decline. They were labeled as fear-mongers. They were mocked. But now, Stewart is saying it out loud.
And everyone has their own pet theory. But there's one theory that a lot of people seem to be coalescing around.
They were too woke, insisting that people use the term Latinx.
Too far to the left on transgender rights.
You have to say they. No, you have to do this.
Stop with the virtue signaling.
Step away from woke.
He pointed to the lack of an open primary, a missed opportunity to inject energy, ideas, and younger voices into the race. Instead, the DNC doubled down. The media played along. And now, there's quiet regret where there should have been open dialogue.
Social justice issues take a back seat when your son is in the basement vaping and playing video games and can't find a job?
I feel like that last guy was really venting more about his son.
Stewart wasn't predicting doom. He was calling out the silence. Then Stewart touched the most radioactive issue in modern politics: wokeness. He didn't use it as a slur. He didn't dismiss social progress. But he did something far more dangerous. He questioned the way it's being pushed. Terms like Latinx, mandatory pronoun declarations, and ideological purity tests are increasingly alienating voters.
They didn't talk about pronouns. They didn't say Latinx. It was the opposite.
We can't let China steal Wisconsin jobs.
Benefits for illegal immigrants? No way. Blocking support for white farmers? I mean, look at me.
Not because they're inherently bad, but because they often feel imposed, not invited. Stewart questioned whether the Democratic Party has gone too far in prioritizing symbolism over substance. One of the most gut-wrenching moments came from a man who shared his frustration about his own son, living at home, jobless, vaping, and disconnected from reality. His story wasn't about politics. It was about pain, and Stewart let that moment breathe. Because behind every progressive policy pushed from a podium is a real family trying to figure out what went wrong. And in Stewart's view, the left has become deaf to those voices.
I only have one problem with the woke theory. I just didn't recall seeing any Democrats running on woke shit. These were the commercials I saw for the Democrats.
Sherrod Brown is working to fix our border crisis.
But Stewart didn't stop there. He turned the lens back on the very people who claim to be holding the left accountable. At this point, Stewart went from roasting tactics to something far more uncomfortable, calling out the hypocrisy sitting at the very core of modern Democratic leadership. It wasn't just about losing elections. It was about losing credibility. Stewart pointed out the obvious, and yet somehow still taboo, truth. Democrats campaign like revolutionaries, but govern like bureaucrats. On stage, it's all fire, change, and slogans. But once in office, the radical rhetoric evaporates, replaced by carefully curated compromises and vague half measures. What he highlighted wasn't just inconsistency, it was intentional contradiction.
And don't forget about Kamala Harris. It's not like she was exactly waving around her NPR tote bag.
I have a Glock.
A kind of strategic amnesia where the party hopes voters forget what they promised once the ballots are cast. Take the endless virtue signaling about equity, climate justice, and student debt. In campaign speeches, these are non-negotiable moral imperatives. But in office, they become complex issues that require bipartisan solutions and budgetary review. Stewart didn't have to scream it. He just calmly exposed how every election cycle resets the moral compass, like a glitching GPS that keeps rerouting back to the same gridlock. And the sting? It landed because he wasn't talking as an outsider. He was talking as someone who used to defend it all. Then came the most self-reflective, and arguably the most controversial, part of Stewart's takedown, the media class. He wasn't just targeting politicians now. He was coming for the pundits, the influencers, the podcast hosts, the late-night show panels, all the talking heads who play the role of critic when it's trendy.
Trump spoke to the people. Democrats never once mentioned Arnold Palmer's never once.
Only to fall in line when it really matters. You know the type. They'll roast Biden's incoherence on air, question Kamala's vague messaging, call out absurd policies around gender, language, or policing. But come November, their ballot still goes blue. Why? Stewart didn't say it outright, but the implication was clear. For many, it's not about principle. It's about tribal loyalty.
This is the map in 1984 when Ronald Reagan won. That's the map. The only state the Democrats won was Minnesota. Yeah.
And he asked the question many viewers have whispered in private. If you don't believe in the policies, why support the party pushing them? Is it fear of the alternative? Social pressure? Career safety? Whatever the reason, Stewart exposed something real. That much of the political commentary we hear is performative. A lot of these figures want to appear balanced and brave, until there's actual risk in going against the grain. He wasn't accusing them of lying. He was accusing them of playing safe. And in today's political climate, that's its own kind of dishonesty. Just when you think Stewart's ready to throw in the towel, he throws in a curveball. He pulls up the 1984 electoral map, Ronald Reagan's landslide. Back then, Democrats were nearly erased from the national stage, winning only a single state. It looked like the end. But 8 years later, Bill Clinton was in the White House.
Everyone thought that's the end of the Democrats. But 8 years later, there was a Democrat back in office. We don't know what's going to happen in 4 years at all. The only thing that is certain is this.
The pendulum swung back. So, is there hope? Stewart seems to think a comeback is possible, but only if the Democrats actually listen this time. Not to consultants, not to Twitter, but to real people. Because the challenges now are different. In 1984, the battle was political. In 2024, it's cultural, emotional, existential. The country isn't just divided by party lines, it's divided by worldviews about identity, truth, language, even what counts as common sense. And Democrats, as Stewart hints, have too often chosen ideology over reality. This wasn't a call to abandon values. It was a plea to reconnect with voters who feel abandoned. Because in his view, if the party keeps ignoring the alarm bells, 2028 won't be a comeback story. It'll be the closing credits. In the end, Jon Stewart's monologue wasn't comedy. It wasn't commentary. It was a flare gun fired from inside the wreckage of his own political camp. He wasn't trying to destroy the left. He was trying to save it by finally saying what so many are afraid to admit, that the obsession with identity politics is alienating people. That performative progressivism isn't the same as policy, and that voters care more about their kids, their bills, and their dignity than the latest trending hashtag. If Democrats don't pivot away from posturing and back toward people, they won't just lose the next election. They'll lose the trust of an entire generation of voters who are tired of being gaslit. Jon Stewart lit the match. Now it's up to his party to put out the fire or burn with it. Before you click away, let's open the floor. Was Stewart right to call out his own side? Or was this just a PR move disguised as bravery? Would you vote for a party whose leaders you openly disagree with, just to avoid the alternative? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is far from over. And subscribe our channel. Until next time, peace out.